Is Daf Yomi Yerushalmi Terumos. The article owes a harder edition. We're on Daf Lamed Zayin Malv in Halacha Dalet, the Mishnah, which is in the Vilna on Chafam Beis, the Mishnah, and the learning should be as close for Am Yisrael and for the soldiers and the captives, and everybody needs Yeshua speedily. It says Mishnah. Somebody says to his agent, go and take Truma, turn to Dash of Ba'abais. Takes Truma according to the Dash of the Ba'abais, whether a 60th, 50th, or 40th, according to Shammai, 50th, and 40th, or 30th. If any of the Dash Ba'abais doesn't know what the Ba'abais' normal won't is, Torah Kabbanis, he goes like the median, which is Echad Mechamishim. I think it's called median. Pichas Asar, so if he deviated by 1/10 each way, 10 one way or the other, it's when 60th or 40th, Truma, the Truma is valid Truma. V'niskavin l'hosif. However, if he had mind to add to the Baal Bayis' normal Truma, even afil achas, even one measure, ain't Truma. Truma is not a valid Truma because he undermines the shlichus. Hamar be'truma, somebody who gives more than the shear of truma that was been specified till now. You go. We had this already. We go up to 1/10 of your produce, like trumas meiser. If you want to give more than that, send a trumas meiser. You can make it trumas meiser. Avol lo makamacher. So. The one is going to have to explain what that means. I'm going to give much more space on this. You go up to 50-50. 50% of the field can make truma. Your products can make truma. As long as give 99%, as long as you leave something to be chulin, it doesn't matter how much you give. You can give almost the entire field. Okay, says the Gemara. So, okay, the Mishnah said, talking about a case where the Babai said to the agent, go be Torem to, according to what I would normally do. What if he knows what the Babai knows, does Law Marlo say Trom Ledati? He didn't say, however, go according to my normal practice. Because what does he do in those circumstances? So let's derive it from our Mishnah. Medaik in our Mishnah, inferred from our Mishnah. If he doesn't know that's about bias, then turn Kabbanis Echad Mechamishim. So when does that apply? When he doesn't know. But if he knows, even though he didn't tell him outright how much they give according to my normal practice, it's as if he told it's him, and it goes according to normal das of the rabbis. Okay, piches asor v'chulei. That is a header which, okay, it's in the Kavanaki and probably in the yeah, it's in the article as well. I doubt it's in the Vilna. Not sure if you needed time to check up. I'm just curious. No header. Amar Rabbi Bumbar Kana. Poches erme asar truma. So if you take 1/10 less, it's truma. But most of erme asar truma. And you add 1/10, it's truma. Avol chuli. Now this is a very cryptic passage here. I'm going to go with the Kavanaki, which is based on the Gra. A shliach who had in mind to be mafresh, 1/50th, and he did 1/10 less than that. So, for example, he had 50 saw, and he wanted to take off a saw, which is 1/50th, and he only got 9/10 of the saw. That's truma. But if you deviated even more than that, no good. It's not truma. Similarly, some of you adds 1/10, such as he got a saw and a tenth, as opposed to a saw. It's also truma, as long as it didn't have more than a tenth. Avolo l'chulin. We don't have this concept of making a mistake by 10 when you are dividing up chulin. So if you want to, in other words, if you wanted to divide your produce into 50 parts and take one of them for truma, so then you don't have that leeway of up to a tenth. And it's not like about bias that we give him let him make a mistake until 1/60th. Here, even 1/10 is not. He can't make. He can't deviate. And I was going to explain. She'ein hapachas batosefes shavim. So the shliach, you have to give him a boundary above and below when it's called from Mishaneh from Mishlichus. So it makes sense to say that these boundaries will be equivalent, both above and below the proper number. So that's why you let it deviate 1/10 more, 1/10 less. That's okay, but not in the case of the case of the chulin, which again we haven't explained yet. So the Gemara says, "Hey Chavir, how does it work? Have a yolif tarim chamin chashin. If we would if it was normal, he was going to give 1/50th. Karutan chamin arbaim, when he takes up 1/40th, mavsi lo shita rovin. He causes a loss of six rovas. The karutorim chamin shitin, when he takes up 1/6, in other words, the Balbais only lose 6 rovin. Karutorim chamin shisin, when he takes off 1 out of 60, matkilo arba rovin, he gets the Balbais gets to keep 40 rovin. So let's go through the numbers. Yeah, you normally took off a saw 1/50th. If you take off 1/40th, so then instead of taking off a saw per 50, you're taking off a saw and a quarter of a saw. So you added a quarter saw, and that's a loss of abayis. You lost shita rovin, 6 rive kav. That's a kav and a half, which is a quarter of a saw, because the saw is 6 kavin. If he takes 1/60th from the 50 saw, and he has now only 5/6 of a saw, and with this you did a 6 less, which Balbais normally does, then the Balbais is making 1/6 of a saw, which is 1 kav, 4 quarters of a kav, instead of the 6 quarters, which would have caused if he lost the other way. So it's like no. In other words, even though we call it a 1/6, the direction, right? It's not really a 1/6, right? If you add 1 to 5, or to take off or you take off 1 from 6, it's not the same thing. But nevertheless, the sheet saying we flattened it out in order to not make it too complicated. Here's the same thing. They're not the same, right? If in one case you're causing a loss of 6 rova, in the other case you're causing a gain of 4 rova, but nevertheless, we regard it as, for our purposes, as being the same deviation above and below. So the Gemara did not explain actually what avalol chulin means. I thought the Gemara was going to explain that. So I'm going to elaborate on what the Kavanaki, I think, is saying. It's not like the Gra, it's not like the Art Scroll. According to the Gra, it's really one long paragraph, and you can take a look in the Gra yourself if you want to see how we interpret it. But I think avalol chulin, and I think what Kavanaki I think means is that, and if it doesn't mean it, so what? So the avalol chulin means this is okay, but shliach is toya by truma, then he can be toya by truma in this amount. Truma. Avalol chulin is going on the next part. In other words, that if the shliach was doing something in chulin, so then you can't say that the deviation is 1/10 above and 1/10 below, because that deviation of 1/10 above 1/10 below is okay. Chazal said by truma, but it does since since one is 6 revaim and one is 4 revaim, so therefore by chulin that can't be the case. You don't have that you can't have a standard deviation which is lopsided. It's true by Onah, so that is das b'nei adam. So therefore you can say 5 to 6 or 6 to 5, even though it's not the same fraction. Nevertheless, that's the way das b'nei adam works. But if we're talking about agency, the shliach has to do precisely what the Baal Bayis wants him to do. So if he deviates by 1/10, so then, okay, Chazal said, and since it's truma, you can deviate by 1/10. He didn't say, I dafka want you to do this way, not the other way. If he had specified, I only want you to do 1/50th precisely, then it wouldn't work. But since by truma there are standard deviations which are permissible, so every did differentiate by 1/10, it's okay. But the 1/10 meaning, I'm not sure I made this clear before. I'm not sure I understood this before when I said this first time. But 10 out of 100, 1/10 out of 10 out of 100 means from going 50 to 60 or from 50 to 40. But not by chulin. If a shliach makes that mistake by chulin, he can't, that deviation, I don't know if any deviation is allowed. But certainly not a deviation which is lopsided. In one direction is going to be 6/4, and the other direction is going to be 4/4. Okay. I think that's the pshat. Now, the next Gemara says, there's a header in the Kavnaki, but not in the article. In this time, also I feel achas, and mind to add even one. Then Hoshin's but in other words, the words going to ask. Hachat amar b'chumas or chuma. Here in the ratio, he said chumas or chuma, even he deviated, as we just learned. The Kohen the Sefer atamar ain chumas or chuma. Said it's not chuma. There's a difference. So Kohen's like what we just said. Amar chanina brei Rabbi Hillel kamis kamil lahosif, when he deliberately had in mind to be mosif, then it doesn't work at all. The whole shlichus is batel. He knew he was being mosif. Then the whole shlichus is batel. Kan miskamin lifchos. Here we had in mind to do less. Now less is interesting here. Does not be taken literally. In other words, he doesn't have in mind to deliberately deviate from the wild bus, but he made a mistake in how he reckoned the das of the bus. Now, it's very difficult to fit into the words, right? Because it's both say miskavin, but that's the way the Kavin Akli explains. And the Shai Teres Yisrael Kedarko Bakodesh just changes the girsa. He says, "Kavin miskavin l'daitoi." In other words, the ratio, not the flachos, but the ratio of the Mishnah is talking about where the shliach was mosif and was told 1/40th, because he thought that was the das ba'bayis, just made a mistake. Kam b'miskaven lahosif. Here he had in mind to be mosif. Again, instead of kam b'miskaven lahosif, here it's kam b'miskaven lahosif. In other words, it's sefer. He had in mind to add on even one deliberately. Shuma is not true because he knows that about das ba'bas, and he deliberately added on to what he did. So the 1/10 shalom miskaven, up to 1/10 shalom miskaven is okay. Or rather, you thought you doing the das ba'bais. You know you're wrong. But if you knew you were deviating from a ba'bais, then you have no leeway. Even if you add a little bit, it's not valid. That's the Shai Teres Yisrael in the text. And then he says, he brings out the name of the Rash, that there's something missing in the Yerushalmi. And we just say like this, Tani, and Tosefta in the 5th parak, Ha'omer l'shulchan tzevit shom echad chamishim, go to return 150, Piches asora, gave 10 less. He brings out the Tosefta says, "Oh, Hosi Pasora," but he says that's not relevant here. Should be let's go at something else. Chumaso Truma. V'yiskaving l'hosif echad ain't Chumaso Truma. So Hachat Amar Chumaso Truma v'Klat Amar ain't Chumaso Truma. Rabbi Chini, Rav Hillel, etc. Okay, I don't know if we have to add that in. Not sure what to so I'll have to decide that it's being into this after here. But the bottom line is that the Kavanoki and other Mefarshim, Kamlosi, Kamiskamlosi, Kamiskamlosi is the same thing as the Shai Torah Yisrael's suggestion, which is, even though they're not changing, Kamiskavin Ledaito, Kamiskavin Losif. And that brings us to the top of Lamed Ches, Lamed Aleph. Yeah. Third line down. Stop here for